Hey guys, my name's Christian. I'm here with my friend Benson, who's a Chico community member. Pretty active in the community. I've seen him around, and I was just interested in kind of picking his brain, seeing what he had to say about topics like homelessness and living in Chico and his experience. Really also just get to know him as a guy. So Benson, thank you very much for coming on.
You bet. Good to be here, bro.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess let's just get straight into it. Just kind of give us a little bit of backstory of who is Benson.
Probably one of the events in my life that defines me a lot is simply that when I was 18, the draft came knocking on my door in the form of a letter, and boys, come and sign up, we want you, that sort of thing. And I messed with them for a while, and then I went on and did my conscientious objector paperwork, and beat the government, and I got my CO, and didn't have to go to the war, and spent my time in the library doing draft counseling and stuff. So it was, that's basically. But I was quoted in like 7th grade in our local Enterprise record for my stand on civil rights, and then I've always just been, I don't know, something, maybe a moralist, I don't know, but basically there's just things that are wrong, and you stand up for what you believe in.
Some like natural law kind of stuff getting in
Yeah,
there.
okay, maybe natural law, I'm not familiar with that. I think it just comes from who you are, I don't even really try to ponder it. I'd rather just describe myself in terms of events rather than actually analyze it. It just seems like leave it alone.
So you're from Chico then? You grew up here?
No, I was born 13 miles aside of the U.S.-Mexican border in a town called Brawley, and it was basically, it was all fire ants, alkali soil, smoke brush, salt trees, and good place to live.
Yeah. How'd you end up in Chico?
My parents came here, and they just, the thing they liked about it the best is it was green.
Yeah, and probably Bedwell
You have no
Park.
idea what that Bermuda grass, you have no idea what that place was like. I mean, only the toughest survived.
Did they get jobs up here, or did they just end up moving?
Oh, yeah,
here?
yeah. My father went to work as a meat cutter for Safeway, and then my mother raised us, and then her first job was ran a paper route for the Enterprise Record, and she moved on up through society, and the last thing she did was she ran the admissions office over at the university.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but this is my favorite part of her, though. And she ran the first equal opportunity program in Chico. Everybody else shied away from her. Nobody else wanted to touch it. And good old mom, she jumps right in there. And we had all sorts of people coming over to our place. I mean, she just loved them. She was a people person beyond belief.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was probably the most inspiring part. But she was tough. She could, she ran the whole admissions office. I forget how many people were in it, but she ran it.
Wow.
Yeah, she got up to the highest paid position she could in the university without a degree. Yeah.
Damn mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, good on her.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So do you think you kind of picked up that people person vibe? Because I see you all the time in the community. Do you think you got that from your mom?
Oh, definitely. She was my role model. Yeah, for that.
Cool.
Yeah.
And they said you were mentioned in 7th grade for your stand on civil rights.
Yeah.
What was that?
Basically, there was another. My arch enemy was pro-business solution for the Negro situation, and I was pro-social programs, that sort of thing.
7th grade.
Yeah, I know. I know. Like I said, I don't know where it comes from.
Yeah, in 7th grade, I was worrying about my dodgeball team.
I know. I had a little bit of that going too, but it's just, like I said, I don't know where it came from.
So, and you're talking about the Vietnam draft.
Yeah.
So that comes along. You're in the library counseling.
Yeah.
Vietnam War ends. What's your move after that? You stay in Chico?
Basically went up to Oregon and chilled for a while. Eventually ended up at Oregon State University taking horticulture classes. At that time, it was things were big in horticulture. It was blooming. I took the first integrated pest management class ever taught in the United States.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, everything was just starting to come together. And I did veggies, nuts, and fruits. That was my specialty, and it went on to serve me well later in life.
Yeah, especially I guess in Chico. Did you end up doing something with it here in Chico with all the nuts and stuff around here, nut trees?
No.
So you're in Oregon. How'd you end up back in Chico?
Came back. Just came back. I always came back at Christmas time to see Mom, you know. But just I kind of a wanderer. If you look at my life, nothing lasted more than 2 years for the first. Yeah, I just wander.
Yeah.
I just get bored with stuff and move on.
Yeah.
Not a good career plan, I'll tell you that. But once again, I am who I am.
Serves for an interesting life, I'm sure. Lots of different things.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so you're in Chico. The reason actually why I wanted to do this kind of interview and like conversation with you is because I see you actively speak for in support of homeless people here in Chico at the Chico City Council events. I see you at a lot of community events when I or some reporters go cover them from the Orion. I was wondering, like, how'd you come to be involved in that and have a heart for homeless people?
Easy, yeah. Basically, when I got back into this area about 78 or 79 at that time, there was a new political group in Chico, and they were a campaign for economic democracy, CED, and they shut down a coal-fire plant in Butte County, and then they elected Jane Dolan to the Board of Supervisors at the age of 27, I think, yeah. And and economic democracy was a whole lot about what I was all about, It was democracy for all. Not, it was like the amount of money you had didn't matter. We were getting democracy for all, regardless of your economic status. I found that extremely attractive, and I did that for 2 years. At that time, I was Peace and Freedom Party, and then I moved back and became a Democrat again. But that's how I got involved, was just working on those issues. I was the biggest signature gatherer for the green line that we put in around here. Basically protected the ag land from urban sprawl. And of course, being a local boy here, that meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
And just they had a lot of other issues that we took on. Affordable housing, anything that was economic democracy.
Now, at the time, when is this, the 70s, 80s?
Early 80s.
Early 80s.
Yeah,
at the time, was economic democracy extended to the homeless population? Was the homeless population even really a thing in Chico?
No, not even close. There was the homeless population as we know it didn't exist. Those folks, that occurred later. I'm not sure all the economic circumstances that created that 2008, the crash for sure, and just rising housing prices and lack of affordable housing. We used to get the redevelopment money here in Chico, and it was in the millions, and that's how we created our affordable housing. And then that all got dried up because of a lawsuit.
What lawsuit?
Yeah. Basically, I'm not sure on the particulars, but the way the money was being distributed, one of the counties decided it wasn't fair, one of the cities actually, and they went ahead and sued, and the state of California, we lost anyway, and the city lost. So the way all the redevelopment were dried up, and that hurt us a lot. So,
and this is probably, do you know roughly timeline when that was? If you don't,
no, not really. I think
So when did you start really starting to see the homeless population pick up, or notice differences in and around the homeless population in Chico?
Well, in fact, I'd say it was gradual, so there was no real starting point. But we've done the point in time survey. We do it every 2 years. It's coming up the 28th of this month. We need volunteers, so if you're out there, sign up. COC, Butte County, you'll find us. But anyway, we need 400 volunteers, by the way, too. So it's, but yeah. So I think the first point in time survey was 6 years ago, and it's been accelerating ever since then. But the number of people we survey, that's not an accurate measurement of the increase of homeless folks in Butte County, because we get better at our survey techniques. So it would be expected that we would survey more homeless folks every year because of that.
Oh,
right?
so it would appear as more are coming into the
big
city.
time. You can see that in the number of people that were surveyed. I think our third one was a huge difference. We survey like Magalia, Paradise, Gridley, Orville, Chico. Those are our hubs, and then we go out into the hinterlands where we might find camps.
Now, speaking of Magalia, Paradise, and all that, obviously we just had the huge campfire in November. Roughly 50,000 people displaced by the fire. How many people do you think are just kind of falling through just like kind of like the steps, or failing to hit the ground running, or that's not even the right way to say that. Like you're just falling through the cracks is the word I was looking for in terms of just becoming homelessness.
I don't know. Actually, our CLC continuum of care, we're the people that sponsor the point in time survey. We haven't decided exactly how we're going to deal with that at this point. I think this next Thursday is our last meeting, and at that point we will hear how we're going to do it. I'm not part of that particular committee. It's a tough question, because we had like 15,000 people all of a sudden come into Chico, and we're not sure how to deal with all that. Because basically the people are scattered all over the place. I have one friend, and he has a FEMA RV, living in a FEMA RV park in Orland. I mean, I have another friend, he's just moved another person back to Texas. He's moving another person after that to North Carolina. I mean, it's just phenomenal. It's like Paradise Dysphoria.
Just in a lot of ways truly blew up.
So and then they just stopped. Excuse me. They just stopped the cleaning up of Paradise because of all the rain and mud and sludge, and we don't know how that's going to go. The weather has just changed massively because of a big weather front that was up north is now letting the weather come down here, so we could get a hell of a lot more rain, and then you could that whole process. If it all hit the fan at once.
So something I thought that was interesting about the campfire, specifically, was that it really kind of brought into this question, for me at least, this question of humanity when it came to homeless people. And first of all, that it was so hard to get the community and the local governments willing to mobilize on something like already homelessness in Chico, which already had a lot of people on the streets sleeping in the cold. Last time,
point in time survey, we probably had over 1,000 people. Over 1,000,
That's a decent amount. And now all these people are rushing to these camps from the campfire. And I remember when reports started coming out that the people at the Walmart center were all just homeless people, and I was like, well, aren't they all homeless people? And then they're like, no, like these are the people that have been like homeless. They're taking advantage of like all this stuff we're donating and the work we're giving, and like the foundations coming in. And at first I was like upset about that. I was upset about hearing it, but then as I kind of thought about it and more people talked to me about it, or I talked to them, it became more of a question of like, why are we treating these people different? They're all homeless. So like I think that really brings up like the question of like, they're homeless, but I think we tend to put these other people in a box of almost not exactly human.
Basically, we've got good homeless and bad homeless. That's exactly what happened. Exactly. And my response is, people using services because they're homeless, regardless of the reason. What'd you expect? Good grief. People are going to take care of themselves. They've got needs. One thing I've noticed in the homeless community and in my work with them is that these people are more than willing to help themselves and more than willing to help with each other. I mean, that is just, That's what I think. That's the first thing that we have to look at. I mean, we have to help the homeless people will help each other beyond belief, more than non-homeless people, quite frankly, because they're not as needy. I mean, people on the streets, point in time survey, over 70% of the people we surveyed had no support. That means family, friends, or anything. They are by themselves. And then they have no money. 70% think, but more than 70% have no money either. So, I mean, yeah, these people will help themselves because they have to. They know that's the only chance that they have. That's what keeps them going. That's where their hope comes from, is each other, working for each other. I mean, they're a tight community because one thing that we were kind of, worried about is point-in-time survey. And then about 5 years ago, we did Project Homeless Connect. And basically, we're kind of like, how do we get the word out to everybody? It's a tight community. They talk to each other. They help each other, And then Project Homeless Connect, we don't have the money to do that anymore because I think it costs us $2,000 just to rent the fairgrounds. But we set up a Project Homeless Connect on the fairgrounds. We had 72 providers, people willing to come in and provide services to our homeless people right there. And I was at the front gate, and we had over 600 people come and use our services that day from all over Butte County. Okay, that just shows you again what the need is, right? And how well they got the word out. Once again, we weren't
they're all
sure.
Connected,
they're a tight community. They take care of each other.
Now, where do you mentioned earlier this idea of good homeless versus bad homeless? Where do you think that idea comes from?
Just people the way they are, I mean, people think, well, okay, the good homeless people, if you will, they were like the people burned out of paradise. They actually had, they were productive citizens, retired citizens, whatever. And the idea is that bad homeless people are homeless because it's their own fault. And they don't realize that people lose their jobs. One of the biggest issues we have is alcoholism. And for over 20 years, we've been trying to get a detox center here in Butte County. Board of Supervisors turned their back on it. They're pushing for a $445 million jail, but we cannot get a detox center. And that's one of the big issues we have is just addiction in the homeless community. It's, it's not like they were not willing to help themselves, and they do. I mean, this one time one of the people died. One of our passed on from our homeless community, and he was, an alcohol abuser. And then all of a sudden, all the people that knew him went into rehab. That's just it's they pay attention to what's going on. But we need the good detox, a real detox center, not just a 10-step program. Not even close. It just, and then and alcohol and drugs, illegal drugs, are the scourge of the streets because I mean people are out there with nothing, and it's so easy to fall into those traps. I mean there was one couple that were sleeping there at the bridge, and they started drinking like a flask of schnapps or something like that just to survive the cold. By the end of the winter, they were addicted. It depends on your some people have more of an addictive personality, and these people should not have been drinking alcohol every night to get rid of the cold, survive the cold.
I mean, that's a question of like they literally don't even have a place to go.
That's a big issue in Chico because people complain about our homeless people, our homeless folks sleeping in doorways or whatever. Well, there's only 120 beds at the Tory shelter, and the safe space. We do 60 to 65, and then there's like 700 people out there that don't have housing. And the whole thing that bothers me about that is the last city council and the police department criminalized them for sleeping outside.
Is this a sit-lie ordinance?
No, this was the no camping ordinance. It was the first one.
Oh.
Yeah, there was a no camping ordinance, then the sit-and-lay ordinance, and then the waterways ordinance, and then the catch-all crimes against the quality of life ordinance. That's how crazy it is. I mean, your basic, accessing your basic needs, sleep, food, bathroom, they get criminalized.
Yeah,
Good grief. It's just, you can't, and the whole idea, it's that prohibition model. Somehow if we prohibit something, these people won't quit do it.
Right, like shutting off all their
the bathrooms, that was the biggest one. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah.
We still can't, you know.
Yeah, you're talking about the 24-hour bathrooms in Chico?
Yeah, the Greater Chico Homeless Task Force has a committee looking at that, leaning on it. When I think with our new city council, we're actually going to get movement on it finally. It's just there's options, and which option they're going to go with, I don't know.
But even then, they're only looking at putting 2 restrooms in the city of Chico.
Yeah, well, I think there'll be more. There'll be more. A lot of it's just like so many places, like trying to find a shelter for our homeless folks. It's NIMBY, not in my backyard, not close to my business, not So that's just a big issue with it. And it always will be. It's crazy because you can line up everything else, but there's always the NIMBY issue. Yeah.
And for people who don't know what NIMBY is, it's this idea that it stands for not in my backyard. Is when people, they want a solution, but then it's as soon as it comes like literally close to their neighborhood, they oppose it, even if they're originally for it because it's in their backyard. So what do you just kind of take the question of homelessness into a broader scope? What do you think that homelessness has done to the city of Chico and the people that live here and experience it, and like how has Chico and the community changed, if at all, from and in response to homelessness?
You see a lot more. Like there's a thing called what is it? Visual penetrability, and that's the ability of the police department basically to see through the shrubbery and see people, homeless folks camping out, sleeping, whatever. And if you've noticed, a lot of the shrubbery's been pulled out, things have been cut down. Right in front of our old municipal building is an excellent example of visual penetrability. Look, the plants are only this tall. It's like, like I tell you, it took horticulture at Oregon State, took some landscaping classes. It's ugly. Dude, I just can't believe it.
So you got a physical.
So that's how it's changed, And then more the doorways. We have those gates that close off a doorway at night, so people can't sleep there.
Get out of the rain. They can't get out of the rain. But on a more different note, like the inhabitants, the people that live here, or the Chico culture. How do you feel the Chico culture has responded to the impact of homelessness in Chico?
Well, it's interesting. It's like, okay, you look at the response to the people that got burned out by the Paradise Fire. There's clothes coming in, food beyond belief, all this stuff, and it's like I think people have gotten more generous. We're getting the homeless community and the people that work with the homeless community are getting more support little by little. But that's how it's changed in that respect. We'll see. We'll see what happens with the 4 ordinances. They're basically that target. The city always says we're targeting behavior, not the people. But if you lock up the bathrooms, let's get real who you're targeting, right? Right. So I think we'll find out a lot when those ordinances come back up, and if they get reviewed or not. We'll see what the new city council does. A lot of the change basically has to come through the city council.
Right. What's been your experience interacting with the city council on issues like homelessness? Excellent. They're moving ahead. The folks, the agencies, the individuals that work with the homeless folks in our community. Right off the bat, the first 2 things the city council did was throw their support behind Simplicity Village, which is a housing, tiny house kind of thing, geared toward the chronically homeless. And then they also threw it behind an all-around, all-year, low-barrier shelter, too. And then before that, there's the other city council actually did approve of, they call it the Revival Center. And it's going to be over across from the Tourist shelter toward the fairgrounds.
and that's about 3.5 acres, something like that. And there'll be a consolidation of services, so people can go there, and rather than go all over Chico to get services that they need, when you're homeless, is you can go there and get them all in one place. That's just off the hook, because before, I mean, people didn't have any money, they didn't have bus passes, they may not have had bicycles.
Right.
I mean, the whole thing was just crazy. And now we can get people to move through the system quicker, but we still don't have the housing element. Yeah, that is,
Now, the interesting thing about the Chico City Council is, a year ago you would not have said this. It's the same thing, from what I understand. You would not have said the same thing about working with the City Council because conservative majority. Yeah. And a lot of things, they were staunchly against 24-hour restrooms. And they were the ones who passed the
four ordinances, that
ordinances,
targeted,
even though they knew
the behavior,
that elections were coming up within a month, and I believe it was Mr. Ori asked that the votes be held until after the election, and they forced it through anyway. Yeah. So, and this isn't, at least for me, not to take sides, but it is interesting seeing those paradigm shifts and so abruptly. I mean, it's now a 5-2 majority for Democrats.
Yeah. We were hoping for a 4-3, and the 5-2 was just off the hook. I
didn't see that one coming.
Yeah. And it's interesting to see Sean Morgan, with our last mayor. He's still on the city council because he wasn't up for re-election. Right. And it's interesting to watch his behavior.
The tables have turned on that man.
Oh yeah. Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. And Casey Reynolds, it's really interesting to see how she's going to play her hand. Yeah.
It is interesting to see all that play out. How do you think that reflects the makeup of Chico and their attitudes on issues like homelessness and kind of like this? There's a fear of homeless people here. A lot of times when there's talk about homelessness, people come up and talk about stories walking through Bidwell, bikes being stolen, and drug needles being found. And while those are all scary things, that's just it. They're invoking senses of fear, and people are trying to make decisions based off of fear.
Well, one thing that a lot of the people who work with our homeless people are pushing is the needle exchange. If we could get that going, they'll take care of some medical problems. Plus, you won't have to actually find them on the ground anymore. It is disturbing. I saw one about 4 or 5 days ago laying on the sidewalk. It is disturbing as hell. But one of the big issues with that is how crazy it is that even if you're an insulin user, if you're carrying a needle, you're still a criminal. You can get charged. So, I mean, we have to get past that. That's how much work we have to do on that issue. But, I think that Coolidge, who's now off the city council, and but he said his issue was that the homeless scared his children, and when I was 5 years old, our house was a marked house down. This is by Brawley, California, and the people, the rail riders, they were called hobos. They would come by our house, and my mother would give them a sandwich, an apple, put in a paper bag, and help them out. And I don't ever remember being scared of them. So I think when you run across people like Coolidge, he's just teaching his children to be scared. And I think that's a lot of it. It's a perception and not a reality. Because I go out and I feed 50 people every Sunday when I can make it at the plaza. They're just so grateful. It's just as I remember one person I ran across. Well, that's nice. It's not nice, dude. You're getting this may be. I mean, it just kills me. It just kills me. It's like, quit being scared of these people and start treating them like you treat the rest of the people. They're human. It just kills me.
To kind of bring it a little bit back to the campfire. I mean, that was a really kind of big eye-opener for me in regards to homeless. Like, do you think that that's been a big a spark kind of to change the way Chico is feeling about homeless people? Because for a while people thought the homeless people were bad, quote unquote bad homeless people, like you said. Drug users, people who didn't work hard enough, people who aren't picking themselves up off the street. We've got help for them, but now we realize you can be homeless because a fire destroys your whole life in 3 hours.
Yeah.
And so, and you realize how close you actually are, and how thin this veneer of society and humanity is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that that's changing the way we're interacting with people in Chico?
We can only hope so. Yeah. We don't have any way to actually methodically measure that.
Right.
But it's a good point. It's a real good point. You know, I mean, most people just don't become homeless. There's a process. You know, I mean, they may lose a job. A lot of the people, like I do, Safe Space. I did 30% of the graveyard shifts for Safe Space this year, and you get to see the people up close. You know, just like in the plaza when you feed people, you know, they're human beings that used to have a life, and because of unfortunate circumstances, not more than anything else, they just ended up homeless. A lot of people just simply aged out. You don't realize how many people in our homeless population is 55 and older, and then there's people who are disabled. They have a small Social Security check, maybe $800. $800, you can't get into a place. You need first, last, and security. None of those people have that. Plus, we had a 1.5% vacancy rate. Now we've got a 0% vacancy rate. We've got, you get in a waiting list. And the same thing, we're not building affordable housing, there's no subsidization, and all the things that people are still becoming homeless every year. Maybe, you know, another reason before, when you compare the past with the present, is we had more affordable housing, way more. You could get a room in a house in 1980 for $60, $65. Now you're looking at $700. You think anything changed? Yeah.
Damn. 60?
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
right.
dumb.
Exactly.
That's dumb.
Yeah.
So
1973, you could get $1 back change on your tuition if you gave them $100 bill. Yeah, thank you. And this is, I mean,
such a difference.
Yeah, well, you can see how poor people are being disenfranchised from the whole system. So that's a big cause of the homeless right there, as these people don't have the economics. You know, the whole thing, the big issue with Paradise was how many people even had the money to evacuate. Who moved to Paradise? A lot of the people who just couldn't afford to live in Chico.
Right.
And so, people are living in RVs, trailers, and, you know,
the people who were just
FEMA money
renting a
only
room.
lasts for 3 months, something like that. And if they were renting, didn't have a house, there's no insurance for them. What are they going to do? Where are they at? Their jobs burned down. So, when you talk about the good and the bad homeless, it's kind of getting lumped all in the same thing right now.
Yeah, I think what it means to be homeless is kind of going through a change.
Yeah.
At least in the people I'm going to school with, I've noticed talks about it. Definitely within the community.
Yeah, that's something we haven't seen either. At the university, they've got the pantry for the students.
For the students,
yeah, that didn't exist even 5 years ago. That didn't exist.
Yeah, they've even got on-campus, off-campus, on-campus housing projects and facility. I'm blanking on the word.
Yeah,
but they do a good job at making sure students have a place to live.
Oh yeah, it's amazing how much food is distributed in this community to feed people who don't have enough food. Basically, the term is food insecurity, and it's crazy. And it was interesting, during the fire, they set up those 2 tents over at Depot Park, warming tents. You know, the whole thing is we're beginning to realize that we do have the ability to have more services for those people who are living without shelter. That's what the fire did for us right there. We realized we could do more, and the people who are active in trying to change the homeless community situation in Chico now have a little bit more ammunition on their side. Yes, you can do it. It's just, and people say there's not enough money. Well, it's priorities. That is. It's like, where do you spend the money?
Right.
And another issue is, like, as far as spending the money, in a sense, we're already spending the money because if people don't have shelters, there's health ramifications. And those people are they don't use the front door, they use the emergency room and the in-low. And so when they go to in-low has to provide the services and does not get reimbursed for it. And so therefore, the rest of us who have insurance do pay more because of that. I mean, the costs get passed on. So we're already paying for it.
Someone pays for it.
Yes, right. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's in the millions what the in-law has to absorb.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Kind of to shift the topic a little bit, something that I think is really interesting and that I've kind of like tried to touch on and that you've definitely mentioned is kind of like differing of views and opposing sides of this whole homeless topic within Chico. And it's really a mirror image of polarization within our United States of America.
Yeah.
And I was wondering kind of what you think about the role polarization is playing within Chico, and specifically in regards to something like homelessness in Chico.
Well, it's basically the city council is nonpartisan, but it's partisan as it gets, and it's been that way ever since we elected Jane Dolan. Before Jane Dolan, it was just a good old boys city council, and we started the liberal platform in Chico, and we started it was a lot more humane. We opposed nuclear power plants and everything like that, and solar, but that didn't exist. So that's where the polarization began. Was probably with the election of Jane Dolan, big time.
And now, what do you think the role it's playing now in Chico in stopping movement or?
Well, the homeless issue. There's one for you. I think they're pretty much. I think the new city council is probably going to follow lock and step with public safety, fire and police. I think they'll follow lock and step on that. Affordable housing, they're moving ahead on that for sure. The homeless issue, they're moving ahead on that. The Needle Exchange, they'll move ahead on that. Voter issues, I think they'll be more progressive on that. Twice in our past, the conservative city councils have tried to keep the students from voting because they only live here 9 months out of the year. How much money do they spend here every year? It's just, so I think I think our voting rights are a lot safer with the new city council. There'll be, I think, probably maybe more water conservation. That one's iffy.
Now, kind of following this idea of polarization.
I thought of one more really quick. Climate change. That'll be a big one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's a group called Chico 350, and they're going to be bringing a resolution before the city council. So that's going to be a big one right there.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because we do a 10-year plan, and then we also do a 50-year plan. And I was at the council meeting for the 50-year plan, and there was nothing about climate change discussed.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Huh. Yeah, that's gonna be different with the new council.
Yeah. And there'll be the junkyard issue that'll take a different turn with the new city council. A lot of issues. Well.
Yeah. I can imagine. Kind of bring it back to homelessness. I was wondering, in your view, what do you think each side is kind of doing? If there is one thing, in your opinion, what do you think each side is doing wrong in approaching the homelessness issue in Chico? And by side, I mean like the political parties or ideologies.
Yeah. Well, the previous city council cooperated a lot with the police department, just trying to, grind them out of Chico. Just make life as hard as possible, and you'll go somewhere else. Well, obviously, that didn't work. One of the questions on our point-in-time survey is, do the Chico anti-homeless laws, not precisely that wording, but could those make you leave? Over 50% said no. They've got more tenacity than most people think of. They don't get it. I mean, most of them, they're hardcore. You know, they've lived with people. Don't realize how difficult their lives are. You know, I mean, you see them out in the bad weather and everything, dude. I mean, it's just, you know, people, unless you've been out there, you don't get it. You know, I think if you're gonna be on the city council, you should spend 3 months out being homeless, and then we'd start getting some, realism. Because I mean, basically, the society ostracizes them, stigmatizes them. You know, I mean, what do these? That's just so wrong. It's not going to work. We got to work toward a solution. What will work for a solution? You know, and that's conservatives. They didn't offer solutions. You know, they did prohibitions, trying to grind them out of Chico. The Liberal City Council right now that we've got, we'll see. They're definitely going to move ahead with solutions, but there's always the bottom line for everything on working for the solutions is money, though.
Now, a lot of people, I would say, worry about this new way that we're supposed to be like treating the homeless people through this new council and this friendliness that can be said towards the homeless people. A lot of people that are trying to be a little bit more traditional or conservative would argue that public safety is in being sacrificed or risked, or that's going to, like, along with the friendliness towards them, public safety is going to go down.
Right.
How do you respond to that? And is like, where is that rooted?
Here's my take on that. Yeah, basically, our 50% of our city budget goes to the police to make us safer, and we do have a crime situation here. Yes, we don't have ours. Well, everywhere else in the nation, practically, it's dropping, but we still do have had an increase in crime here. I haven't heard any good reasons why that is, but it is true. The whole thing is I haven't heard this discussed very much, but there's something called diminishing returns. You put so much money into a certain project, and then your return on that project starts to diminish, and that may apply to law enforcement too, because you pick up you've already all those the low level crimes you're pretty much on top of those, but still the high end crimes go unsolved, unpunished, whatever, and that may be a factor, but also it's just like what kind of return, because we only have so many dollars in our budget, so what kind of return do we get from adding another officer, and what if we put that money into having somebody from behavioral health on the streets of Chico all the time? We've got that going on, kind of like right now we have a first responder unit, a crisis respond unit, the police do, and it's 2 police officers and 2 behavioral health workers. Oh. But they only go 8 to 5. And that's like, people have episodes all the time.
Right.
So I think there's one where I would like to see that go 24 hours. I think that would be more worth our while than hiring another police officer. The officer's about $90,000 a year, and I think we could do a lot better if, especially with the behavioral health people. I think we need more of them on the street. Point in time survey: 30% of the 2,000 people that we surveyed in Butte County had mental health challenges, and we only have 16 beds over here on Parmack Avenue for the people with mental health challenges. That's ridiculous. I mean, the whole thing is. I mean, I just when I was coming down here, I jumped. My bus stop, my neighborhood bus stop, is on 12th and Park, right where the Jesus Center is, and I saw 2 people out there that had mental health challenges, and these people are just roaming the streets of Chico, and they're not getting the help they need. And then also, I don't know. I'd like to know a little bit more about the de-escalation practices that the training that the police department should be taking. They're a lot better than they were, way better than they are. They've been doing de-escalation training, and I think Police Chief O'Brien is on board with that too. And I'm seeing a lot better approach by our officers to people in general. I work with the ACLU American Civil Liberties Union, and I do police practices. And so I'm always watching the police, if you will, and checking on them. And I love talking to them. Every time I get a chance, I'll talk to an officer because I want to understand their position, you know. And a lot of people just don't. I think I understand the police officers' biggest concern is going home safe that night to his family or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And you can see that. But yeah, they're getting a lot better at the way they approach the homeless. We've got a gentleman, I can't think of his last name, but his first name's Carson, and he's a behavioral health person, and he's on the target team for the Chico Police Department.
Okay.
That was a big step in the right direction. And I would just like to see more behavioral health people on the streets because they have something called super users. This, I think, comes out of the police department. And super users are the ones that maybe have 100 contacts with the police a year. And that's how much does that cost us? Exactly. That's why we need to get our behavioral health people. That's why we need more beds. I mean, how much a year are we paying for that situation?
Super users.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's. Yeah, just where's the fire? Oh, there it is. Let's throw some dollars on it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't know they do that.
Yeah.
So I think you touched on something interesting, kind of like this myth of, well, I don't know, is it a myth? This idea of like
perception,
homelessness,
maybe?
Perception of that all homeless people are also crazy people or are mentally ill. And I'm sure, while that is a certain number of population, in your experience, has that been like the overwhelming majority? A lot of people just down on their luck.
Yeah, I think you see people with mental health challenges out more because they're acting out, you know. And I think other people maybe tend to keep to themselves. A good place, just go down to the Jesus Center or the tourist shelter and talk to those people. I mean, those are people who are taking care of themselves, trying to get back on their feet. I don't know if it's still that way, but the tourist shelter, when you went into it, you got a caseworker. And the idea was get you in school, get you a job, get your Social Security, whatever, get your VA benefits, and get you moving forward through the system. Because a lot of people just get so frustrated with all the paperwork and everything like that. They especially people that have issues with all that bureaucracies. They can just the bureaucracies can kill you literally.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I guess.
But,
I have all my
so
life
I mean, the
experience,
caseworker is a big issue. And help to have enough caseworkers to get people through. Because if you only a caseworker will obviously have more than one client, and how many clients can you handle? And the more clients you have, the less effective you're going to be. And it just the funding's a big issue. Big issue.
So. Just kind of wrap it up a little bit here, but I think kind of a bigger and perhaps the most important question is where can we meet in the middle? What can we use to unify the Chico community in effort to honestly combat homelessness and fight for these people experiencing homelessness, but also know when to prioritize public safety? Like where is that middle ground in your eyes, and how can we get there?
Well, basically, if I think one big step forward is a community court. And that's restorative justice, somewhere where we get people in the services that they need, get people a caseworker, even then give them housing, this sort of thing. My idea is right now another issue that City Council's changing their mind on is the cannabis issue, dispensaries. I think the $100,000 out of the tax money that is created by the dispensaries should go to support a community court. And this would get people into services and maybe even into beds, That's a big issue. That's a way we can come together. I think that's something we can all agree on, is a community court would be good for us. Because it costs $35,000 a year to house somebody in the Butte County Jail, maybe even more now. But so I mean, we can help. We can find solutions for people that don't cost us $35,000 a year. So let's quit sending people to the county jail. That's a big step in the right direction. It puts money back in our pockets and gives people a better opportunity in life to change. I mean, the whole thing is, it's one thing to not want to change. It's quite another thing to have the opportunity to actually actualize that. And like, there's another big issue that we had. We don't have a place for homeless people to park their cars and live out of them. And yet we sure found the fairgrounds, I don't know how many hundreds of RVs on it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing is, you see, the fire showed us what we can do about the homeless situation. Whether or not we act on that those possibilities is up to the city council and the people of Chico. But yeah, I think there has been a change of heart big time. I think that'll continue. And I think there's another big issue with the homeless issue, as far as all coming together, is education. People have a perceptions of the homeless folks,
right,
much like Coolidge did. They scare my children. No, this is what I tell you. Get your children, go into the plaza on Sunday, get about 15 peanut butter sandwiches and hand them out, and watch the gratefulness, watch the warmth come out of these people. It's, go buy a homeless person a cup of coffee and don't talk to them, just listen to them.
Yeah.
That's what, right at this individual level, you need to go out and look to know who these people are. Guess what? They're you.